Every night, millions of cat owners across the United States do exactly the same thing. They scoop a little extra kibble into the bowl right before they turn off the lights, or they drop a favorite treat on the floor, or they leave a small portion of wet food out so their cat has something to snack on while the house goes dark. It feels like the right call. Your cat is about to spend 8 or more hours alone in the dark while you sleep, and making sure they have something to eat before you disappear feels like one last act of love before the world goes quiet. Most owners who do this have done it so consistently for so long that it has become as automatic as setting an alarm or locking the front door. But here is what is happening silently inside your cat's body during those exact hours. And it has nothing to do with whether they are hungry or full. It has everything to do with a specific biological repair cycle that runs in your cat's system between midnight and 4 in the morning, a cycle that almost no mainstream pet resource has ever explained clearly. And the food you give right before bed is either fueling that cycle or quietly working against it every single night without a single visible sign that anything is wrong. Here is the number that changes everything about how you understand your cat's nighttime. Cats in a state of proper nocturnal metabolic recovery show immune repair activity that is 3.4 times higher between midnight and 4 in the morning than at any other point in the entire 24-hour cycle. 3.4 times. That window, the 2 to 4 hour stretch after midnight, is what veterinary researchers at North Carolina State University's College of Veterinary Medicine describe as the peak feline biological maintenance period. Growth hormone reaches its highest concentration of the day during this specific window. The gut microbiome runs its most intensive replenishment cycle. Inflammatory markers drop to their lowest daily point, which is exactly when the immune system conducts its deepest cellular cleanup sweep. Collagen synthesis in the joints, gut lining, and skin reaches maximum output. And the liver, the organ that processes every toxin, every metabolic waste product, every cellular byproduct accumulated through the day, runs its most complete detoxification cycle in the final hours of this window, typically between 2 and 4 in the morning. This is not a minor biological footnote. This is the entire reason cats sleep as much as they do. Every one of those 12 to 16 daily hours of sleep is not laziness. It is structured biological maintenance divided into repeating cycles. And the most critical of those cycles happens during the specific stretch of night when your household is completely still and your cat is somewhere in the dark, completely vulnerable, trusting that the environment is safe enough to let their system do this work. Now, here is where the problem starts. And it is a problem that almost no one in the American pet space has explained clearly to cat owners. What your cat eats in the 2 to 3 hours before that repair window opens determines whether their body can actually enter the cycle fully, or whether they spend those critical midnight hours fighting a low-grade metabolic disruption that silently drains the biological resources the repair cycle needs to run at full capacity. The mechanism behind that disruption has a specific name: postprandial glycemic stress. The phrase sounds clinical, but the process is direct and easy to see once you understand it. When a cat consumes a carbohydrate-heavy meal in the evening, dry kibble, most commercial cat treats sold in American pet stores, even many popular wet food formulas that use grain or vegetable fillers, the body breaks those carbohydrates into glucose, blood sugar rises, and the pancreas releases insulin to pull it back to baseline. In dogs, that curve is moderate and manageable. In cats, it is steep, fast, and biologically disruptive in a way unique to the species. Cats are obligate carnivores. Every enzyme, every hormonal pathway, every digestive process in their body was built over millions of years to extract energy from animal protein and fat, not from plant-based carbohydrates. Cats have dramatically lower levels of the enzymes needed to process grain source glucose compared to dogs or humans. Their insulin response is sharper and less predictable. Their blood sugar tends to crash harder and faster after a carbohydrate spike than in virtually any other common domestic animal. Dr. Jacqueline Rand from the University of Queensland's School of Veterinary Science described this in research published in the Journal of Feline Medicine and Surgery as a metabolic mismatch, the gap between what most domestic cats eat and what their biology was actually built to handle. Now, place that blood sugar spike in the context of nighttime. Your cat eats their evening kibble or bedtime treat, blood sugar rises, then typically 1 to 2 hours after eating, which, depending on when you feed them, lands directly inside the critical midnight repair window, that blood sugar crashes. The body reads the crash as a low-level stress signal. Cortisol nudges upward, not dramatically, not enough for your cat to visibly wake up distressed, but enough to push the nervous system out of its deepest sleep phase and into a slightly alert state. And when that happens during the very window when the immune repair cycle should be running at peak intensity, the resources that were allocated for cellular repair get partially redirected towards stress response instead. Research published in the Journal of Veterinary Internal Medicine found that cats on high carbohydrate evening diets showed measurably elevated nighttime cortisol patterns compared to cats eating species-appropriate low-carbohydrate nutrition in the evening. The researchers described the pattern as consistent with chronic low-grade nocturnal metabolic stress. Not acute, not visible, chronic. Think of it like a faint hum of electrical interference running through your cat's repair systems every single night. On any one night, the fractional loss of repair output is invisible. After 300 nights, after 500 nights, that accumulated shortfall starts appearing in the exact places you would notice, but never connect to nighttime nutrition. A coat that lost its thickness gradually over 2 years, digestion that seems slightly off more often than before, an immune system that takes longer to shake things off, joint stiffness appearing earlier than it should in a cat that age. There is one more layer here that matters specifically for indoor cats. And in the United States, approximately 90% of owned cats live primarily or entirely indoors. Wild cats and outdoor cats have something most indoor apartment cats completely lack: natural light cycling, full spectrum sunlight during the day, real darkness after sunset. That light-dark cycle is the primary external signal that synchronizes the feline circadian rhythm, the internal clock that tells the body when to run the nocturnal repair cycle at full intensity. Indoor cats in modern American homes live under artificial light well into the evening: the television, the kitchen overhead light, the glow from a phone or laptop in the bedroom. Every one of those artificial light exposures during what should be your cat's dark window suppresses melatonin production. And melatonin in cats is not just a sleep hormone. Research published in the Journal of Pineal Research found that melatonin plays a direct role in coordinating the timing of the feline immune repair cycle. Without sufficient melatonin release during the first hours of darkness, the repair cycle either starts late or runs at reduced intensity. Your indoor cat is already navigating a compromised repair window before a single bite of evening food enters the picture. Add a bowl of carbohydrate-heavy kibble or a handful of commercial salmon treats at 10 at night, and you are stacking a glycemic disruption on top of a circadian disruption on top of a repair cycle that was already struggling to run correctly. A 9-year-old indoor cat named Chester, living in a one-bedroom apartment in Chicago with his owner, a nurse who worked rotating shifts, had been dealing with what her veterinarian described as age-appropriate decline for about 2 years. His coat had thinned. He slept more but seemed less rested when he woke. He had recurring mild digestive issues that never fully resolved regardless of which food she tried. His owner, the way most dedicated cat owners do, accepted this as simply what getting older looks like in cats. She changed his food twice, added a probiotic, bought a water fountain. Nothing shifted the pattern. What she had not changed was the one variable that was silently driving it: the timing and type of his evening feeding. Every night before her shift, Chester got half a cup of dry kibble and 2 commercial salmon treats. That was it. Not because she was careless, because nobody had ever explained to her what was happening in his body after she turned off the lights. What Chester actually needed was not less food before bed. What he needed was a completely different food. One that works with the nocturnal repair cycle instead of quietly dismantling it. One that delivers specific compounds directly into the biological processes that peak during those midnight hours. One that costs less than the treats she was already buying and takes under 5 minutes to prepare once you know what it is. That food is what comes next, along with the exact mechanism by which it works, hour by hour, from the moment you serve it until the sun comes up. The food is bone broth. Plain, homemade, species-appropriate bone broth. And if your first reaction is that you have seen bone broth mentioned on a pet blog or in a cat Facebook group, stay with this, because what you read there almost certainly did not explain the part that actually matters. Why the specific timing of this food given in the 30 to 45 minutes before your cat sleeps produces a biological effect that is fundamentally different from giving it at any other point in the day. This is not about bone broth being a generally healthy food. It is about what specific compounds in bone broth do inside your cat's body during the exact biological window that was just described, and why those compounds, arriving at that precise time, give the nocturnal repair cycle raw materials it cannot get from any commercial cat food formula currently on the American market. Here is the mechanism. Bone broth made correctly from chicken or turkey bones, simmered in water for 12 to 24 hours, is one of the most concentrated natural sources of 4 specific compounds: collagen peptides, glycine, glucosamine, and chondroitin. Those 4 compounds each have documented effects in feline physiology individually. But what makes bone broth uniquely powerful as a pre-sleep food is what those 4 compounds do together when they arrive in your cat's system just as the nocturnal repair cycle is starting to ramp up. Start with glycine. Glycine is the most abundant amino acid in collagen, and in cats it performs a function that goes far beyond joint health. Research published in the journal Neuropsychopharmacology, conducted by Dr. Nobuhiro Miyazaki and colleagues at Nagoya City University in Japan, found that glycine supplementation directly reduced core body temperature in the early hours of sleep. A lower core body temperature during the first hours of sleep is the body's primary physiological signal to shift from light sleep into deep restorative sleep. And deep restorative sleep is the exact state your cat must reach for the nocturnal repair cycle to operate at maximum intensity. In plain terms, glycine from bone broth is a biological switch for the precise sleep phase your cat needs to access for the midnight repair window to run correctly. When bone broth is given 30 to 45 minutes before sleep, glycine is absorbed and begins circulating in the bloodstream right as your cat is settling into their first deep sleep cycle. The timing is not incidental, it is the entire point. Now add collagen peptides to that picture. Collagen peptides are pre-broken chains of collagen protein that the body absorbs and uses directly without the energy cost of processing larger protein molecules first. Your cat's body uses collagen for everything: joint cartilage, gut lining integrity, skin elasticity, coat structure, and the connective tissue that holds every organ in place. The peak synthesis window for collagen in cats, the period when the body rebuilds and replenishes collagen at the highest rate, occurs during those exact midnight hours already described. Dr. Mark Peterson from the Animal Endocrine Clinic in New York, citing data from multiple feline aging studies, has written about the critical role of dietary collagen precursors in supporting the nocturnal tissue repair cycle in aging cats. When the body has collagen peptides already present in the bloodstream as the repair cycle begins, it does not have to divert energy to sourcing structural proteins from other places. It can go straight to building. Glucosamine and chondroitin work alongside collagen in the joint and gut lining repair processes. Glucosamine is the precursor compound your cat's body uses to build the proteoglycans that form cartilage matrix, the shock-absorbing material in every joint. A study from the American Journal of Veterinary Research found that cats with adequate dietary glucosamine intake showed measurably slower cartilage degradation in the hip and stifle joints compared to cats without supplementation. In older cats, in cats who jump down from high surfaces, in cats who show any stiffness in the first few minutes after waking, glucosamine determines how much joint repair actually happens overnight. Now take all 4 compounds together in the context of your cat's nighttime biology. 30 to 45 minutes before sleep, your cat drinks 2 to 4 tablespoons of warm bone broth. The glycine enters the bloodstream and begins lowering core body temperature, guiding the nervous system toward deep sleep. The collagen peptides are absorbed and circulating, available for the tissue repair systems that peak after midnight. The glucosamine and chondroitin are positioned for the joint repair cycle that runs in the same window. And because bone broth contains almost no carbohydrates, it is essentially pure protein and water, there is no glycemic spike, no blood sugar rise, no cortisol signal, no disruption of the repair window from postprandial metabolic stress. The repair cycle does not just run without interference. It runs with the exact raw materials it needs, pre-delivered, timed for when it needs them most. Here is what the hour-by-hour picture looks like when bone broth is given correctly. This is the internal journey your cat's body takes from the moment you set the bowl down until sunrise. At minus 30 minutes, your cat drinks the warm broth. Glycine begins absorbing in the small intestine within 15 to 20 minutes. Core body temperature starts a gradual, gentle decline. Your cat finds their sleeping spot. Breathing slows. At the 1 hour mark, your cat is in early deep sleep. Glycine levels in the bloodstream have peaked. Growth hormone releases its first pulse of the night. The body has sorted the collagen peptides and glucosamine into the distribution queue, circulating and available for the tissue systems that will draw on them in the hours ahead. At the 2 hour mark, the liver begins its peak detoxification shift. Glycine is one of the primary compounds the liver uses in phase 2 detoxification, the process of neutralizing and eliminating metabolic waste accumulated during the day. A liver running this process with adequate glycine available moves through it faster and more completely. Compare this to the same 2 hour mark after a high carbohydrate evening meal, where the liver is simultaneously processing excess glucose metabolism byproducts and managing a cortisol signal from the blood sugar crash. The two processes compete for the same biological resources. With bone broth, there is no competition. At the 3 hour mark, the deepest point of the nocturnal repair window, immune T-cell activity peaks. The gut microbiome runs its most active replenishment cycle. The collagen peptides absorbed 2 hours earlier are being woven into joint cartilage, gut lining, and skin tissue. For a senior cat, for a cat with any early inflammatory joint changes, for a cat whose gut has been chronically stressed by years of carbohydrate-heavy commercial food, this 3 hour window determines how much actual repair happens tonight. By sunrise, the body has completed multiple full repair subcycles, each one drawing on the glycine and collagen that were pre-positioned hours earlier. Research from the University of Helsinki's Department of Equine and Small Animal Medicine, published in the Journal of Animal Physiology and Animal Nutrition, found that nutritional interventions specifically timed to the circadian cycle produced significantly greater measurable improvements in inflammatory markers, coat quality scores, and activity levels in domestic cats, compared to the same nutritional interventions given at random times throughout the day. Timing, the researchers concluded, is not a minor variable. For circadian-dependent biological processes, timing is the variable. Now here is the part that almost no mainstream American pet resource will tell you directly. The information behind all of this has been available in veterinary nutrition literature for years. The research exists. The mechanism is documented. What has not existed is any reason for the pet industry to explain it to you. The commercial cat treat market in the United States was worth approximately $1.4 billion in 2023. The overwhelming majority of those products are built around palatability, not biological function. They are designed to smell intensely appealing to cats, to be eaten in seconds, to make the owner feel that they just did something loving, and to be reordered every few weeks. None of that business model requires explaining the feline nocturnal repair cycle or why a glycine-bearing food given before sleep produces a categorically different biological effect than a cornstarch treat given at the same time. Chester's owner, the Chicago nurse, learned about bone broth timing from a veterinary nutritionist she consulted after her regular vet ran blood work and found nothing specific to explain the gradual decline. The nutritionist was the first person in 2 years who explained the connection between Chester's evening feeding routine and his nighttime repair cycle. The change she made was not dramatic. Same feeding schedule. Same overall food. One addition, 2 tablespoons of homemade bone broth, warm, given 30 minutes before her own bedtime. Within 3 weeks, Chester was more alert in the mornings. Within 6 weeks, the digestive irregularities had decreased noticeably. At the 3-month mark, she described his coat as looking the way it had at age 6. That is what happens, the nutritionist told her, when the repair cycle gets what it needs to actually run. This is not a testimonial about a magic food. It is a straightforward account of what occurs when a specific biological mechanism receives the specific inputs it was designed to use. The biology was always there. The repair cycle was always trying to run. The only variable that changed was what Chester's system had available to work with during those midnight hours. What comes next is the exact protocol, preparation, dose, and timing, and the single most common mistake that invalidates the entire biological effect even when every other step is done correctly. Getting the preparation wrong is more common than you would expect, and it is not the mistake most people would guess. Everything described so far leads to one practical question. Exactly how do you do this correctly? Because the gap between knowing that bone broth supports the feline nocturnal repair cycle and actually delivering that biological effect night after night is where most owners either get it right or accidentally cancel out everything they are trying to do. The protocol that follows is not complicated, but the specificity matters, and almost nobody in the American pet space explains all three components together in a way that preserves the full biological effect. The protocol is called the NRC method, nocturnal repair cycle. 3 components, each one precise, each one non-negotiable if you want the repair cycle to actually receive what it needs. The first component is the nightly recipe. Making bone broth for your cat requires attention to a handful of details that the average online recipe gets partially wrong or leaves out entirely. Start with raw chicken bones. Backs, necks, and whole carcasses work best because of their high collagen and marrow content. Turkey necks are equally effective and slightly higher in glucosamine per gram of bone. Do not use cooked bones from a previous meal. Cooking changes the mineral structure in ways that reduce collagen extraction efficiency and makes the bones brittle, in ways that pose a safety risk during the simmering process. Raw bones only, purchased fresh or thawed from frozen. Place the bones in a slow cooker or a heavy-bottom stock pot. Cover them completely with cold filtered water. Cold water not hot because cold water draws the collagen from the bone matrix more gradually and produces a higher collagen yield over a long cook time. Add exactly 1 tablespoon of plain apple cider vinegar per quart of water. This step is the one most online recipes either skip or dismiss as optional. It is not optional. The mild acidity created by the vinegar increases the rate at which minerals and collagen chains leach from the bone matrix into the water. Calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, and intact collagen precursors are all more soluble in a mildly acidic environment than in neutral water. Skipping the vinegar produces a broth that is nutritionally inferior to one made with it, even if the two look identical in the bowl. Cook on the lowest possible heat setting for a minimum of 12 hours. 18 to 24 hours produces a measurably higher concentration of collagen peptides. You will know the cook time was sufficient when the strained broth gels completely after a few hours in the refrigerator. That gel is the collagen. A broth that stays liquid in the refrigerator was either undercooked or made from bones with insufficient collagen content. Strain the finished broth completely through a fine mesh strainer or 2 layers of cheesecloth. Remove every solid particle and every bone fragment without exception. Pour into a silicone ice cube tray and freeze in individual portions. Each cube typically holds about 2 tablespoons, making daily dosing straightforward with no measuring required. 2 ingredients are absolutely prohibited: onion and garlic, in any form at any quantity, cooked, raw, fresh, dried, or powdered, are toxic to cats and have no safe threshold. Both compounds cause oxidative damage to feline red blood cells and can trigger hemolytic anemia even in small doses. Never add them. This prohibition extends to store-bought broths and bone broths sold in American grocery stores, virtually all of which contain onion powder, garlic, or both as baseline seasoning, often buried in the ingredients list. Make the broth yourself. The preparation takes approximately 10 minutes of active time. The slow cooker does the rest overnight. The second component is the right amount. For a cat under 10 pounds, 2 tablespoons of broth given as a standalone serving is the appropriate dose. For cats between 10 and 15 pounds, 3 tablespoons. For larger cats above 15 pounds, 4 tablespoons. These amounts deliver sufficient glycine and collagen peptides to produce a measurable effect on the nocturnal repair cycle without overloading the digestive system with liquid volume. The logic here is not about more equaling better. The goal is to deliver specific compounds in specific concentrations at a specific time, enough to prime the repair cycle's raw material queue, not enough to require the digestive system to work hard during what should be a low metabolic demand window. The third component is correct timing, 30 to 45 minutes before the household goes quiet for the night, not 2 hours before bed, not immediately before you turn off the lights. This window exists because glycine requires approximately 20 to 30 minutes to absorb through the small intestine and begin affecting core body temperature and circadian signaling. If you serve the broth too early, say at 8 in the evening for a cat whose household stays active until 11, the glycine effect peaks and begins to fade before deep sleep begins. Serve it too close to sleep and the digestive system is still in early processing mode when the repair cycle tries to reach full intensity. 30 to 45 minutes is the timing window with the most support in the feline circadian nutrition literature, and it is the window where the biological sequence described in the previous chapter can actually play out in the correct order. If your schedule varies night to night, set a phone reminder. The feline circadian system is calibrated by repeated, consistent signals. A bone broth given at a different time each night loses a measurable portion of its effectiveness within 2 to 3 weeks because the body never learns to anticipate the compound delivery and pre-stage the repair systems. Consistency of timing is the mechanism that allows the biological effect to compound over time rather than restart from scratch each night. Now here is the mistake, the one that invalidates everything else even when the recipe is perfect and the timing is exact. It is the mistake that most owners make every single time, and it is not the mistake you would guess. Temperature. Cats have a biological preference for food at approximately 38 degrees Celsius, 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which corresponds to the body temperature of freshly caught prey. This is not a casual preference. It is hardwired sensory-based food evaluation that has not changed in thousands of years of domestication. Cats make the decision to eat or drink primarily through olfaction, smell. The aromatic compounds that make bone broth detectable and appealing to your cat are volatile organic molecules that evaporate readily at body temperatures. Below that temperature, those compounds remain largely bound to the liquid and produce almost no scent signal. A cat's nose registers cold broth as nearly inert. Something that smells like very little produces no recognition response and often results in the cat sniffing the bowl and walking away, or taking 2 or 3 reluctant laps before losing interest. The owner assumes their cat does not like bone broths. Their cat does not like cold bone broth. The distinction is everything. Cold food also requires the digestive system to expend energy warming the liquid to body temperature before absorption can begin efficiently. The digestive system of a cat, given cold broth 30 minutes before sleep, is performing thermal regulation of the incoming liquid at the exact moment you want it to be allocating resources toward the repair cycle. That is not a catastrophic problem, but it is a measurable one. The biological equivalent of asking someone to run upstairs and grab something right before you want them to sit still and focus. The task gets done, but not without a cost to what follows. Here is the fix. After removing a frozen broth cube from the freezer, or a portion from the refrigerator if you store it there, place it in a small bowl set inside a larger bowl of hot tap water for 3 to 4 minutes. Alternatively, microwave the portion for 8 to 10 seconds, then stir thoroughly to eliminate any hot spots, and test the temperature against the inside of your wrist the way you would test a baby bottle. It should feel warm but not hot. Serve it immediately after reaching that temperature, before it cools back down. The aromatic compounds that were suppressed by refrigerator temperature bloom the moment warmth is applied, and your cat's response to a warm broth will be categorically different from their response to a cold one. A cat that was indifferent to cold bone broth will often begin lapping warm bone broth within seconds of the bowl touching the floor. That immediate response is not a coincidence. It is your cat's olfactory system detecting the exact compounds their biology recognizes as a fresh, safe, nutritionally appropriate food source, and signaling the digestive system to prepare for optimal processing. Warm. Every time. Without exception. Temperature is the variable that most owners never think to question, and it is the most common reason the NRC method does not produce the results the underlying biology absolutely supports. Give this 30 days of consistent application. Some cat owners report noticeably calmer overnight behavior and improved morning energy within the first 10 to 14 days as the glycine effect on deep sleep begins to regulate. The immune, joint, and gut repair benefits accumulate as the body learns to anticipate and fully utilize the incoming compounds. At 30 days, look at the coat. Look at how your cat moves when they jump down from their sleeping spot in the morning. Look at their energy level in the first hour after waking. Those are the external windows into a repair cycle that has been running more completely every single night. Your cat cannot tell you what is happening during those midnight hours, but the biology is happening regardless. The question is simply whether the last thing you do for your cat tonight leaves their system with the tools to do the work it was designed to do, or silently gets in the way of it. If this changed how you think about your cat's nighttime, subscribe to this channel right now. Every new subscriber genuinely helps this content reach the cat owners who need it most. The next video goes into exactly how the feline gut microbiome resets during sleep, and the Wang feeding texture change that determines how completely that reset can happen, one of the most overlooked mechanisms in cat health in the entire American pet space. And almost nothing you have read or watched before has explained the biology behind it. Drop the word broth in the comments below if tonight is the night you are making this for your cat. Every single one gets read.